So Tuesday, I watched a TED Talk, and it was I don't know her name, I should, you all know her. She was I was hoping going to be the new governor of Georgia, but she lost. And she did a TED Talk, an extraordinary TED Talk, and her talk was an amazing one. She grew up very, very poor. Her parents weren't poor enough, so they went to ministerial school to become Methodist ministers. They wanted to practice poverty at a deeper level. That's what she said, not me. And so she happened to become the valedictorian of her school. And as a valedictorian, she got invited to the governor's mansion with all of the other valedictorians of all of the other schools in Georgia. And so they didn't have a car, so they got on a bus. And they took a bus to the governor's governor's house. And the guard watched them get off the bus, mom and dad and the daughter. And they went up to the gate, and they were told promptly that it was a private party and that they weren't invited in. At which point they explained that actually she was invited in because she was a valedictorian, and they said, the guard looked at her, looked at the bus, and said, "You don't belong here."
Wow.
So the father, not having been in ministerial school yet, having not completed it, moved into a less than ministerial conversation and got the guard to look at the roster to find out that in fact they were invited, and they got in. Now when she tells the story, the part of the story that's really important is that she said, looking back at that experience, I don't remember meeting the governor, but I'll never forget being at the gate. And I decided at that point, she said, that I was going to be the person who decided who would come through the gate. And so she had three major points she wanted to make. One is, what do you want? What do you really, really, really want? Do you know what that is? Why do you want it? Why, meaning what's in your heart, what compels you, what drives you, what lifts you up, what makes you want this so badly that you can't sleep at night without thinking about it, and you can't sleep all night because it wakes you up. And what will you do for that to happen? The three major questions: what, why, and how. Now that does tie into the integrity mission that we're talking about this week, because if you have integrity in your why, rather than that it's a fix for you to feel good this weekend because you get nothing else to do or you had a miserable week. I really want to do this. I think that's what I want to do, yeah. I don't know, we'll figure it out. And I'll live off the good feeling I get all weekend. As opposed to what I want, really want, and why I want it, and what I'm willing to do for it is so powerful that nothing's going to stop me. Now this young woman has not gotten the election to elect her. It wasn't in favor of her. But what she was able to get were more people voting in that state than had ever voted before. And I think actually if it hadn't been for some funny things going on in the background, she would be our governor, or she would have been the governor in Georgia. So you have to cheat to keep her down. You have to lie to beat her down. Well, that's pretty interesting, because the integrity that she had in her mission was so powerful and so palpable that people saw it and felt it and said yes to it. So people will say yes to you when the why is so commanding that they not only like what it is you have in mind to do, but they like the congruence of it. They like how it fits, how it feels to say, yes, this is true, this is me, and I don't mean maybe. So that was my talk. Didn't take long. And I'm thinking, let's talk A. And then on my way here today, talk B showed up. And I thought, I got to do this one. But I love prefacing it with the first one, because the first one's really powerful. This is part B. How many of you have ever had a dog? Okay. How many of you have been to somebody's house who has a dog they keep in the backyard that never gets in the house?
Yeah.
Now, when they got that dog, it was a sweet little dog. That little dog could do nothing wrong. Now here's the analogy, here's the metaphor. That little puppy was your spirituality. And that little puppy got brought into your house because that little puppy somehow moved your heart, just like your first spiritual experience, in such a deep and profound way. You wanted that puppy around everywhere, and people wanted to come to see your puppy. When you fall in love with a spiritual idea, you are like a kid with a puppy who says, look at this, isn't this beautiful? And then the puppy got a little bit older. But the other thing that happened is you got busy. How many of us have gotten so busy we can't take care of the puppy anymore? But it does mean something. We keep it in the backyard, it's our puppy, or it becomes a guard dog. How many of us have a guard dog spirituality? I bring my guard dog out whenever things are bad, okay? This dog will bite you if you're not careful. Why? As my Lutheran minister used to say when I was growing up, you have a fire engine religion. Only when there's a fire do you call on it. You call on the guard dog whenever things are bad. Yeah, he's right here. It's my spirituality. Don't mess with it. What about Tuesday? Well, I'm busy Tuesday. The voice is on Monday. I'm sorry. I like the voice. My spirituality, Wednesday. That'll work. We've compartmentalized our spirituality much like a puppy or a dog, and we treat our spirituality very often not like a dog that we love, that's a part of our family, but like something we have now in our life. I got to take care of it. You got time to feed the dog. Okay. As opposed to time to feed the dog. Time to bring that dog in. Time to sit down with that dog and remember what it was the dog gave to me, that dog continues to give to me if I will make eye-to-eye contact, if I will look at it, if I will hold it and allow it to hold me. It will give me something that it's always given me without limitation, without restriction, without rules. See, that dog that you brought into the house lowered your blood pressure, helped your heart, helped your mind, helped your consciousness. And even when you were sick in bed, that dog, like your spirituality, climbed in bed with you, put its head on your shoulder and said, it's okay. And somehow, although you didn't get better right away, you were better than you would have been without the dog. We need to treat our spirituality more like a pet that we love, that we know has something that we didn't know it would have, and that is the ability to give us something, the ability to love us back. And our spirituality, very much like a dog or a cat or a number of other pets, will look at you after your worst day and after the most miserable things you've said and done and say, I love you. Why don't we just sit here for a little while and kind of hang out? And you, unfortunately, like me, will often say, I don't have time for this, okay? I don't have time for love in my life right now. I'm busy. I mean, I got important things to do. Love isn't one of them. Not right now, maybe later. Go to your doghouse. Go outside. The people I know that have the best relationship with spirit, have the best relationship with nature, have the best relationship with all of nature's kind, because they see it as part of the voice of God speaking to them. And the people that have been able to compartmentalize every creature in their life have been able to compartmentalize life in such a way that they are actually not really full-time in it. They're sort of living part-time. And when they finally decide that they want to involve that person or that family in their life, they actually often don't know how to make the transition. If you work enough hours, and you work hard enough and long enough, and you work angrily enough, and you have to struggle long enough, by the time love meets you, you won't have time for it. You won't know how to be with it. So what I'm asking in a strange way is treat your spirituality more like a dog. A dog you love. A dog that doesn't say anything, but every time it comes up to you reminds you that life is all about love. It just is. Allow your spirituality to give you a licking. And we don't know how to do that sometimes. In fact, what's really interesting, I think, is we sometimes fight that off because we don't want to be that open. We don't want to be that vulnerable to the very thing that brings life to us, the very thing that enriches us and empowers us. So it was a powerful idea I thought about, and I thought of all the things we do, picking the kind of dog we want, which is really interesting. No, I'm a Lutheran. Okay, I'm Baptist. I'm Catholic. That's this particular breed. It's a better than average breed. If you've ever talked to somebody about their dog, oh, you have one of them? I wouldn't have one of them. I like the long-haired ones. No, I like the ones with the pointed ears. You like that kind? Whoa. We could be talking about Baptist versus Methodist. We really could be. So I'm going to say, I've got a Catholic dog. Oh my God. That dog was born in original sin. Isn't it interesting when we start talking about the breed of dog we picked, that we automatically stack that above all the other breeds? until you're at somebody's house who has the dog you'd never have, because that's not your breed. That's just not how you were raised. You want a real dog. And that dog that's not a real dog in your mind comes up to you and looks at you. Well, maybe for right now it could be a real dog. And then that dog climbs up on the couch or the chair with you and you make room for it and you start petting that dog and you're thinking, there's a universal dog here. There's a dog in all dogs. Oh my God. And then you leave and you say, I would never have that kind of breed, but that dog I would have. Isn't that interesting? Could we make room for every breed? Could we make room for the difference that we didn't choose and know that it's still a good choice? It's a grand choice for another person. I had somebody recently at the hospital where I do some part-time work tell me that he'd been saved by Jesus. And I said, that's fantastic. Is he a believer? I said, I sure am. You were saved by, no, I wasn't saved. I didn't have that same experience, but I think it's marvelous that you did. I think you've had an extraordinary experience. You should hold on to that for the rest of your life. I will, but what about you? Well, I have a different breed. You do. I said, I think there's room, I didn't say this actually, but there's room for more dogs. We can each have our own. You know, the dog park was really wonderful. It's not that the dogs come to the park, but that there are so many different breeds we can look at. And they don't know they're different from each other. They just know they're dogs. And we know that when we're in the park with them, they're all dogs. And wouldn't it be nice if we could take all of our religions and put them in the center and say, each one of them has its own integrity. Each one of them has its own value. Each one of them is a gift. Some of them are more expensive than others. Some of them take more energy than others. Any of you have one of those religions that sheds? No matter where you got some, my jacket, I know. That's a tough religion to have. People, oh, you're one of them, okay. Yeah. Or you have one like we've got. It requires a lot of grooming. You know, we have a standard poodle religion. You have to constantly look at how is it behaving? How is it in consciousness? How am I with it? And it wakes you up to your own best qualities, but it's not a long-haired dog. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's not necessarily right for you, but would you like to invite it into your home? Could you invite it into your home? So the first thing I'd like to suggest is that what we often do is we don't tend the dog in our house, but it's a better dog than everyone else's. Maybe we need to tend the dog in our house to find out why people would love a dog in the first place, and then not make judgments about everybody else's dog. Because the fact is, we haven't often given enough attention to our own. Now, what made me think about this was Judith every morning gets the book, or it's an Ernest Holmes book.
365.
365. It's a message 365 days of the year. Every morning, even before coffee, she's got that book out, she's reading it.
It makes me feel good.
It's a spiritual practice. We don't have a dog right now. We've got 365. And she'll say, and she does this, Bob, you've got to listen to this. This is really good. As opposed to, we've got to read 365, we have time to feed the dog. No, she says, I want to read this to you. And she reads it out loud. And because of her voice, she has a way of reading that I just want to listen to her read anything. So she'll read it and I'll think, that's really good. And sometimes I'll be drifting off. I haven't had my coffee yet. And I'll say, read it again. And she'll read it again. What a way to practice our spirituality. Now, what if I tell people I'm a religious scientist? That's what we actually call ourselves. What do you believe? I haven't had really time to read very much lately. Well, what do you practice? Well, I haven't had much time to practice lately. Well, how does it affect your life? Well, it does, but it's a subtle kind of thing. I can't really describe it. So why do you call yourself one? Well, it's because I've been one for several years, and it's a nameplate. I've got it on my cards. I've heard that all the time. I hear that from Baptists. I hear that from Catholics. I hear that from a lot of my Jewish friends. I'm not a practicing Jewish person. I don't practice being Jewish. Okay, I don't practice being Catholic. What do you practice? I don't know, but it's at 5 o'clock. I think it's time for a drink. Practice that. We practice a lot of feel-good things, but we don't practice the spirituality that feeds us. We don't give it the sacredness that we often could give it to have it have value. The reason that I love dogs so much is because when I see them, I spend time with them in my heart and my mind. I watch them. I look at them. I listen to them. They listen to me. We talk to each other. We have conversations. And by the time we get done, I don't know, both of us are in the same dog park. We don't have a dog now, but we ride to the dog park to watch the dogs. Because we need our dog. We all do. But the most amazing thing to me is to watch how little we actually do that has integrity with the things we say we love. We take the things we love most, compartmentalize them, put them someplace where they won't get in our way, and they don't get integrated. Now, now I have to shift from dogs to cats, because some of you aren't dog people, you're cat people. And this is it's extraordinary. I saw it on Facebook, which I spend too much time on, I know. And this cat, the person who owns it is playing the piano. And this cat is playing with his arm, playing with his face, playing with his shoulder, rubbing up against his neck. He's saying, please, can you give me some of that attention? And what's really wonderful is that the person playing the piano is in fact playing the piano, but is also loving the cat. And he's loving the cat, and actually what they're doing is they're harmonizing together. It's a harmony of energy. It's an exchange of caring. But the cat is saying, please don't ever forget your heart. Please don't ever forget to love. Please don't ever forget that we can be the best of friends without a single word. Wow. I think that's what we're here for. I think we're here to practice loving each other, and we need a lot of help. We need a lot of support. Because we get caught up in our stuff. We get caught up in the noise. And because we get caught up in the noise, we just forget. Judith and I both get caught up in, well, when do you have to go to work today? I have to be there by 1. Okay, well, what are you going to do this afternoon? Well, I've got all these things to do that are church related that none of you know about. Everything from the website to getting ready for the talk to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. Both of us are busy all day long doing stuff so that we could have a life later. Without realizing we could actually have a life sometimes doing the stuff. And that's the real shift, is how could the stuff that you do invite you in? How could you invite yourself in? So I will say, I have to go to work at 1, and I sit at the desk at 1, and I realize I don't have to have it be I have to be at work. This could be a place to have a meaningful experience. This could be a place for an enriching event.